From dogs to frogs to goats, Resident Evil has given us masterpieces, disasters, and also dead aim. For my money, it's probably the most interesting video game series out there to discuss, as it all varies so much that it can give you whiplash going from one game to the next. So, today, I'm separating the whippers from the chaff and ranking every Resident Evil game ever. Drop your top 5 Resident Evil games down below and you could win a free Steam key for free. Alright, so where better to start than the start? I don't think much, well, you know, I feel like we could say a few things about this. I'm going to put it in S+, with a caveat. If I had like an S tier, I think I'd put it in there, the original Resident Evil, because it changed everything for gaming forever. But the second game and the third game are just, to me, evolutions of the first game. Obviously, it's iconic. It's got so many incredible moments and stuff, but it feels like the second and third game were just steps up from that. It still has lots of effective spooks, and it still has great atmosphere, and there's a load of games that try to be like it and just can't quite emulate it. But Resident Evil changed gaming forever, and I think it's one of those where maybe in 10 years time people will be more like, has it aged that well? And it'll be kind of like a legacy versus a quality kind of thing when it comes to ranking them. But for now, you cannot deny the cheesiness of this sandwich, so obviously it has to be an S+ for the OG Resi. Resident Evil 2, so let's, you know, just surround a little bit, let's put that there, saying it's more S+ than Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2, probably, arguably, well, not arguably, I don't think it's arguable really, one of the greatest video game sequels of all time. It took the original game and just made it much better, which is quite remarkable considering what a crazy development history it had. You don't get many games that like rebooted halfway through and still turn out to be really good, or, you know, like genre shifters, like generation defining games. Leon's amazing, Claire's amazing, being able to alter things in different saves, doing different runs, doing different routes. It's great stuff. It's Resident Evil 2, without a doubt, one of the best video game sequels of all time, and I think this will age very, very well for a very, very long time. Resident Evil 3 for me is probably the I'm gonna put it just below Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 3 for me, this was my first Resident Evil game, and a little bit of a Jimmy Lawfare. I actually first encountered this by reading the book by S.D. Brooks of Books. Is it S.D. Brooks? S.D. Perry. Don't know where I got Brooks from. S.D. Perry, who wrote the amazing series of novelizations. She wrote Caliban Cove and stuff like that, which I quite like. It's like set on like an island, and then people get infected and then rise and stuff. Hazy memories about them. But anyway, Resident Evil 3, yeah, what's there is so compact and tight and just so much fun. And it's the most approachable of the original trilogy today, I'd say. And having multiple choices and being able to dodge out of attacks, and Nemesis. What more can you say about Nemesis? Step on me, Nemesis. No, maybe not that. Yeah, one of the greatest creature designs of all time. I love my big squid boy. And one of the best trilogies of all time. Just an incredible game. Incredible game. And now we come to probably the first game in the trilogy, in the series, that you could say is not, you know, you're not going to rush out and beg your mum to get it for you. I think it gets a hard rap because it's so cheesy, but the textures and models are really good. The shooting is okay. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Why am I trying to legitimize Resident Evil Survivor? It wasn't good then. I can't nostalgia glasses it into being good. I'm actually going to do, I think, a playthrough on this for members. It's been a long time since I played it. So yeah, I don't think it's great. It's a light gun game, like designed for controller, it feels. Zombies take 1,600 bullets to die. And yeah, Vincent, it's your mother. Resident Evil Code Veronica we have next. Now, this is the first really difficult game to like analyze in terms of its quality and like comparative to the original trilogy. Ooh, it's a tricky one because I think I'm gonna go B on Resident Evil Code Veronica just because it's so imbalanced, and it is. It's just, I don't know how you try and spin it. Right, the backflips and stuff is cool, like the gravity defying like Matrix stuff. That's neat in a way. Maybe wouldn't have maybe influenced Paul Tom, which is the non-evil, which is the evil Paul Anderson? Is it W? Thomas Anderson's the neutral good, isn't he? Yeah. WS is lawful evil. Paul W.S. Anderson to include a lot of bullshit in the movies. Steve Burnside's annoying, but it's a great setting. The great enemies, characters, and it's the last true Resident Evil game in the classic sense, in classic style, before we'd move on eventually. I'll say it's a B. I think it could be an A, but as time goes on, I think it gets more and more, its flaws get more and more obvious. There is Code Veronica X on here as well. There are a few like spin-offs and like different versions of games and DLC that I'm not going to rank today. But yeah, Resident Evil Code Veronica, that's an easy B. Resident Evil Gaiden, I'm going to go with a C on this one, just because the idea is cool. I know it's actually plops. I think just the idea of making a portable Resident Evil game where you can go into first person is crazy ambitious. And it's a neat way of kind of doing the Resident Evil style on a portable. The story is bullshit written by a delusional maniac who's got spiders in his brain, but it's interesting. I think it's worth a play. You probably won't want to complete it, but Resident Evil Gaiden on the Gaiden? Yeah, on the Game Boy Color was pretty impressive for the time and quite ambitious. Get in there, you that's one. This is an awful game. This you talk about cash grabs these days, right? But nothing quite compares to Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica in terms of being a 1 hour long arcade game that they pretty much just straight ported from arcades, and the controls feel like you're trying to drive a Tesla and you're a squirrel, and you're also on fire. That's all I can say of it, really. Resident Evil Survivor 2, amazing box art in the EU, by the way. Flash up the box art on its own if you can for me. Amazing box art in the EU and PAL territories, and that kind of drew me into it as a child, but it's just so awful to play. The controls, oh my god, oh! It's kind of like part of the experience, having a bit clunky, but this just like takes the piss. You have to walk towards something in first person. It's first person like light gun ish game, by the way. So you have to walk towards something, and then you have to figure out what Pythagoras was all about, and then give £10 to the nearest charity in order to be able to move slightly to the left, and then you have to do it at right angle, and then you have to shoot a spider, and then suddenly Nemesis is there, and then at the end it's revealed that it's a dream, and that Nemesis, and then it doesn't make any sense for it to be a dream of Claire, because Claire never met Nemesis. No, she would have Resident Evil remake, right? Let's get this out of the way. Single best remake of all time, best horror game of all time, beautiful, peerless, the best, the scariest game of all time, in my opinion. I have never played a game that has been as terrifying as this. Honestly, I played it not too long ago again, and I genuinely had to pause a few times. I don't know what it is. They nailed the atmosphere, just the dread, the dark of the mansion, and this is the kind of advances in generations that we used to see that was quite incredible. One generation between this and this, it was wild to see just the uptick in technology. It still looks great now. Obviously, some of the pre-rendered backgrounds are a bit flat and boring, but it has an atmosphere. And yeah, some of the voice acting still isn't great, some of the performances aren't great, but it's just the scariest game in the series by a long way. My favourite horror game of all time. Maybe not my favourite horror game, but the scariest horror game I've ever played. And just an incredible horror game. The best remake of all time. Twin Snakes is pretty close though. I'm joking. Resident Evil 0. What a cool idea. Right, cool idea. A co-op-y kind of like switch between characters idea. Billy is cool. I love his tattoo. Oh my god, put that on a Game Boy Advance immediately. But like playing it and just the way it like doesn't respect the time, makes you go between boxes constantly. The main guy, the main villain, isn't memorable whatsoever. He like sings. I don't remember his name. I think he's got like his top off. Maybe the train sections are cool, but once you get off the train, it just kind of goes off the track a little bit. Not great. I'd like to see this one remade down the line, but yeah, not great. Resident Evil Dead Aim, right? I'm not going to joke with you. I'm not going to joke with you. Resident Evil Dead Aim. Listen, objectively, I know it's not a great game, okay, but there's something about it, something about the way it's a third person into a first person shooter. The main enemy is really interesting and cool. It's such an amazing design. It's nice and quick and well paced. The setting on a cruise ship is really neat. I love that. More cruise ships in horror games, guys. Or is it just a ship? I think it's just a ship. I actually do need to replay this one as well, but my nostalgia brain is telling me right now that Resident Evil Dead Aim is actually peak. Well, like the peak of the B tier in our Resident Evil ranking based on Gremlin. But still, Resident Evil Dead Aim, if you've never played it, give it a go. It's surprisingly pretty fun. Don't worry about the story or any of that. It's just shoot stuff. Just shoot it. Resident Evil Outbreak. This is an interesting one because... Right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Here you go. I'm going to put Resident Evil Outbreak in B and Resident Evil Outbreak File number 2 in A, because it fixes a lot of the annoyances of the first games, just the clunkiness, and it remakes some parts of the original game as... well, remakes and just tightens up and makes them better. The story is better, both amazing games. I think if you were growing up and you had broadband, check you out. King of the Castle. Back in the day, back in like 2003, then these games would be much higher up for you. But as a solo player back in the day, these were pretty great. They did still have the, like, Code Veronica, they did still have the classic Resi style, but with more co-op stuff. Yeah, I really like them. I really like the settings, the levels, the zoo idea is worth revisiting at some point, I think, in the future. Really cool characters, and it's really cool to see you get some rep ahead of Requiem with Ash Bates, cool guy, and hopefully we'll get it ported. And just Capcom, listen Capcom, if you want to get your live service money, right, let's just get right ahead. Where's the Reverse? Reverse isn't on here, but Reverse would be right here. If you want to get your live service money, just do these again. Just Monster Hunter these if you really want it that bad. Just do that, please. I've got nothing to say about Resistance. Resident Evil 4, top 5 game of all time. I don't really need to say more. It's a bingo. Just, there you go. It's a bingo. It will always be a bingo. My sweet, sweet cherry pie. I love it very dearly. It's a game that changed me as I was a youngster, getting attacked by chainsaw wielding lunatics just because you dared to try and talk to them while they were eating tea. It's just all a big misunderstanding. Ignore all the stakes and stuff. But yeah, an incredible game. A brilliant marriage of like action and horror. It's still being scary. Remember the Regenerators, spookiest enemy in the series. There's not much more needs to be said. I don't think anyone could dispute it being the top 2 already, as it were. Just an incredible video game, an incredible undertaking, and a fantastic video game. The best in the series as far as I'm concerned. Now, Resident Evil The Umbrella Chronicles. I'm going to put you in C. It's a retelling, effectively, of the events of the games, but by Albert Wesker, so things are a bit like shonky and a bit evil and a bit Matrixy. I think they're on the Wii. They were on the Wii. So they looked kind of rough. I think where is it? Where's Darkside? Darkside Chronicles. I'm going to put Darkside Chronicles just above this one and say that it takes away some of the narration from Wesker, fixes some of the annoyances of these two, and retells some of the events again. But both equally flawed. I'd like to see them ported though. I'm surprised Capcom hasn't tried to do VR with these two, like easy VR ports. I think that'd be a quick buck for them. But I think I heard not too long ago they were doing arcade ports of RE2 Remake. That's neat. More light gun games is always good, if you ask me. Resident Evil 5. Right, this will be an interesting one. Here's my thing. If you play without the QTEs on, as I did with the Gold Edition, it's an A game, I think. Maybe just below. If you play with, then no, it's probably like here. If you take the QTEs, if you play with the QTEs, it's here. The QTEs are just annoying. It did make me laugh though, playing it without the QTEs, and you just see like Chris just running immediately like a hamster on like Usain Bolt blood. He's just got like a IV drip of just Usain Bolt blood going into his tiny heart the whole time. But I put him here. I put this here. I think over time I've grown fonder of it. I don't think it's really the most Resident Evil of Resident Evil games. You know what, actually? Don't like it that much. I do. The one thing you can say about Resident Evil 5 is that it's not boring. It's interesting. People will always have things to say about it, and I think people will still be talking about it for a long time. It's one of the most easy to talk about Resident Evil games, I think. And the co-op is fun, the AI stuff is terrible. Actually trying to play online with someone is really annoying these days, so it could probably do with another remake, or maybe it's just a remaster. I don't really think we need a remake of it, maybe. I think it's still good fun. I think it's still good fun. Resident Evil 5, an A. But again, with QTEs, B. Resident Evil, the Mercenaries 3D. I don't really have much to say about this one. I don't know. Maybe if you bought it for full price back in the day, you'd be pretty mad. But I think nowadays, if you pick it up just to play around with it and play as Resident Evil 5 characters on your 3DS and go for high scores, it could be a fun little time consumer. It's the kind of thing nowadays, Resident Evil, the Mercenaries 3D, that you just would have to have something else with it. You couldn't really get away with just selling this now. But it's an okay game. It's an okay little side. Basically just a quick way to get used to the 3DS tech before Resident Evil Revelations. I'm going to put Resident Evil Revelations in B, just because I played it later after it got ported to later platforms from the 3DS. And I have to say, you can definitely feel the handheld design of it a lot, but I think it's pretty neat, especially for people who were kind of a bit annoyed about Resident Evil 5's action focus. There is a lot of action in this, don't get me wrong, and there's a lot of like corridoring in this game as well. It's just really annoying fights where it's just way too much at once, but I do like the setting again. Ships. I'm always shipping ships in horror games. Shippy ships, and it's pretty fun. I like the episodic nature. The pacing is a bit all over the place. Like, oh my god, Chris's head has fallen off. I know he's a mannequin. Now let's go to a ship in the Antarctic and do that for 3 more hours. It's a bit all over the place like that, but it's still a fun game and a neat little side story. Operation Raccoon City. The idea is cool. This is them really trying to get into like multiplayer kind of side of things and being a bit. This is when they kind of focus more on action over horror, and it was just like a tactical shooter without the tactics. You know, do you know what I mean? It's just like go, cover, shoot. It's like Gears of War, Resident Evil, basically. The idea was cool, taking place during the collapse of Raccoon City, but just like the actual application of it wasn't quite there. It wasn't very resi. But I think you might get something out of it if you go to play it now. But I'll play it again? Probably not. Resident Evil 6, here's some controversial for you. It's not as bad as they say. It's not good though. It's not good though. I'll put it here between just after 0, just because that's more resi than this one. I played it not long ago, and I was buying it for like £2. It's like, this isn't too bad. And then it got to a point where it was like Leon, and there was like I was on a bus. I was just roundhouse kicking this big mutant in the face 100 times. And I was like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? What did they do to us? I think for pure value for money, this game probably is the best value proposition in the whole series. You got so many campaigns, you got so many hours of it. It's maybe too long, you could say, but the main villain isn't very memorable. Yeah, who is he? He turns into a crab at some point, right? A giraffe? The sex giraffe? Isn't that we're fighting the sex giraffe? Nobody knows. Nobody remembers. Basically, they did too much. I think you can enjoy it in short bursts. It's not very resi. You don't need me to go on about this anymore, do you? It's not very resi. It might be fun in short bursts. It's an okay game in its own right, but a poor resi game, really. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Right, I've got to be honest with you. I've actually not really played this one. I think I played half of the first episode and I just bounced off it. So I'm not actually going to put this in here. Based on what I played, I don't know. I put it, I guess here maybe. I didn't really play much of it. I last played this about 10 years ago. So if you want to see me play this or do a retro review of it, let me know. But for now, just to be fair, I'm going to leave it out. Umbrella Core, get down there, you big server shit. That's what those around Wooler are actually. Let me put that there. Funny story about Umbrella Core. This was the first code I used to review games. First code I ever got from Capcom. I was so excited, and then I played it. I think I gave it like a 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10, and then I didn't get a code from Capcom again for like 5 years. This is just the drizzling shits, this game. Maybe actually slightly better than Survivor 2. It's so odd. It's like Gears of War, but you're gliding along the entire time, and like there's a zombie here and there, but mostly you're just shooting other Umbrella soldiers, but also it's just much easier to just hit them with your pickaxe. What a load of shit. What a pile of shit. Oh, and there's a map set at Raccoon City police station, and there's crows there. That's all I can remember. Just an absolute fucking misfire. Terrible game. Terrible, terrible piece of shit. Better than Survivor 2, though. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I think this is when people really... This game... History will look back on Resident Evil 7 Biohazard very favourably. Do I prefer it to Resident Evil 2? You know what? I do. I don't think it should be controversial to enjoy the newer thing more than the older thing. I think history will reflect just how important Resident Evil 7 was for not just Resident Evil, but like horror in general. This really like refocused horror again, because we were in an era at the time of just like psychological horror, just like, oh, you've got no weapons. Here's a triangle. Go and use it to hide from the monster every 5 minutes. I got so bored of that. This made it fun and scary again to actually have weapons to defend yourself with. It brought back the feel of survival horror in an amazing way. And obviously I was a lot to like, you know, PT and stuff like that. That's the real genesis of this kind of feel of first person horror. Absolutely terrifying. Just some half bald man chasing after you in a car. More terrifying than you could ever possibly conceive. Dudes flying through the walls. Maybe it does lose a bit of like impetus when you get to the ship, and it has the silliest choice in video game history. Do I want to choose my wife or the girl with a pixie bob I've known for 20 minutes? But just an incredible horror game. One of the best horror games of the last 20 years, 10 years. Is that what, 2017? Nearly 10 years old. How sickening. But it would take 2 years for it to be outdone, in my opinion, by Resident Evil 2, which showed in a different way that a more traditional survival horror can also work. So it's a third-person remake of the second game over the shoulder. And again, for me, Resident Evil 2, the original, still has a strong place, but if I have to play one of them, it will always be Resident Evil 2 2019. Just beautiful. The atmosphere, the lighting, the visuals, the sloppy burgers. What an incredible game. Just one of the most replayable games of all time. I loved both scenarios. I loved exploring Raccoon City when I had the chance. Mr. X was terrifying. Much more than... I'll get to it in a bit. But yeah, Mr. X in Resident Evil 2 is one of the scariest antagonists in any horror game ever. And just an incredible reimagining. Probably... close to this one in terms of the best remakes of all time. Marvelous. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. Oh, it also made it so that you could shoot a zombie in the head 9 times and you wouldn't get frustrated, but you just get scared. How did they do that? How did they do that? Resident Evil 3. Oh, man. So this was the first code I got from Capcom again after this debacle. I was like, shit. This was not that great either, especially compared to Resident Evil 2. I'm going to put this just above Dead Aim there, because it's not a bad game. It's not a terrible game. It's a fun game to play, but it's probably the single biggest missed opportunity I've ever seen in a video game. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is a great game, of course, but it's also product of a rushed development time, and you know, it could have had a bit more to it, perhaps you could argue. But what Resident Evil 3 the 2020 remake does is it just takes more out. So you're left with, I remember getting to the end of it and I was like, I thought it was a joke. I thought I was maybe missing something, and I had to ask, I think the Capcom PR at the time was like, hey, is there any more to this, or is that it? And they were like, no, that's it. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. So what is there is really good and fun. I think the Jill model is amazing, and I love Jill's portrayal in this. And Carlos is cool. The hospital sections really are quite creepy, some of the creepiest in the series. But then it just ends. You fight the fish guy, you go to the science lab, you shoot some naked guys, touch some plants, and then you shoot a big blob, and that's it. It's over. It's what a waste. I know they were counting on people playing this and seeing this as the extra content, but no. Resident Evil 3, what a shame. What a waste. They should have just given it another year. I think the turnaround from 2019 to 2020 for this game was just too short. I know it was a separate studio, an external studio, but just slow your roll, guys. Get this one right. And they didn't. Still fun. You can get it for £2-3, but if you paid like full price for it back in the day, what a joke. Resident Evil Village. Now this is an interesting one. This is probably the most good game in the series. By that I mean, it's all good, but I don't think it's great in the sense it's not fantastic throughout. Not everything about it is amazing. It's all pretty good. And it has the Far Cry 3 issue, of course, where when you beat Alcina Dimitrescu, that it just kind of loses it a little bit. Same thing with Vars. I can't even remember the name of the final boss in this. The overall villain is Mother Mercy, Mercy Maiden, Iron Maiden, Mercy Sisters, Megadeth. I can't remember. Issue with it is I didn't find it too scary for like the bulk of it. Of course, you have the section, the little building with a baby. That section is terrifying, but like actually like the werewolves themselves, like the brunt of the enemies you'll face, just aren't scary, and it's set during the day, a lot of it. So yeah, there was a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion to make a lot of it like nighttime siege kind of settings against the werewolves, and there's not so many of them, so then it's more tense. They've basically turned the werewolves into just like common enemies. I did like the story. I think the other characters were interesting. Cracks me up though, the whole Chris, the lack of telling people basic information. It's just like, I've just shot your wife, don't worry about it though, it'll be all right in the end. Like, Chris, why? Just tell me why. Just like, nah, I'll leave it until it's crucial to the plot, probably. Give it 15 hours. It's like, Chris, mate, come on. Bit of storytelling issues in there for sure. And Mia getting shot, and then Chris, and then Ethan going, what the hell? Like a Tim Robinson. It always cracks me up. But there is some scary moments to it, like the zombie-ish creatures down in the castle basement. Overall, great game. I don't think it's really passed the cultural test, as it were, for staying in the consciousness as much as some of these other games on the S Plus tier. But it's, like I said, the most good Resident Evil game. You won't find many people that hate it. And there are people who love it, but probably not as much as these other games. It's like the perfect 8 or arguably 9 out of 10 Resident Evil game ever. Good fun. Resident Evil 4, oh baby, get right in there. Get right in there. One of the most fun horror games to ever play. One of the best remakes again. I don't think they've done a remake wrong. Capcom themselves. I think that was M2. I think that was like an actually American company, those guys. Resident Evil 4, just an amazing reimagining of the original game. I think people who think it's too serious and not as funny or cheesy didn't really play it, but it's still quite goofy in a lot of places. And also, just can you imagine how expensive it would be to animate a giant little person in a hat as an animatronic these days? It costs like 100 million quid. I loved Leon's new portrayal. I loved Krauser, and then I loved just some of the little gaps they filled in here and there. I like how they made it more scary overall. I found it quite scary in places. I don't think the village boss had quite as much aura to him, but everything else, in my opinion, is such a good remake. So obviously, I'm not going to put it above Resident Evil 4, the original, because that has for me such a soft spot in my heart. Soft spot. Don't shoot it there, please. I'll die. Yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake, incredible remake, and the kind of thing where you just want more of them afterwards. And that's it. That's all of the Resident Evil games, apart from the ones I forgot, and also Revelations 2. That's all of them, though. What did you think of my opinions? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I should be burned at the stake in a Spanish village? Let me know down below. I've been Jimmy for Culture Vultures. It's been good to have you. If you want to see more like this, let me know down below as well. I'm so good at this. See you later.